Hi, this is Rabbi Kolakowski. Kind of lost my voice. Getting better. But I'm just responding to David Hazoni and Phil Asulin on these issues we're discussing about Israel. And I'm always incredulous how Jewish people on the left always talk about pluralism, meaning they expect us to accept things that are blatantly against the Torah. People who drive on the Sabbath, who eat pork, who eat chametz on Passover, who they don't keep the mikveh, they don't put on tefillin, and these are our fellow Jews. And gesund hate. I'm fine with that. I can live in a pluralistic society, but they will not accept a Jew who has a different view about Israel or about Zionism. And it's just, if you want me to accept a Jew who has a different view about Shabbos, about Torah, about all these things, which are essential to Judaism, and now something that just popped up 70 years ago, or at best, 120 years ago, 130 years ago, and you expect us to accept that, and unquestionably, it's so dogmatic. It's so fundamentalist. There's no room for any dissent when it comes to Zionism. It just I don't understand it. With that being said, I do want to say a little bit about my own personal views, which are different than other people's. But for example, I do not support BDS because I support my brothers who live in the Holy Land who will suffer by BDS. It's not only Zionists who are there. They're pious anti-Zionist communities. They have their hechsher on a lot of mainstream products in Israel, on Pepsi Cola, and all kinds of food items have the not the Sachtus, that's in America, the Eda Geredes, the Badatz Eda Geredes, and they don't deserve to suffer. I proudly buy food items that come from the Holy Land with the Eda Geredes hechsher on it. It's a good hechsher, and it's and they're Ehrlich Yidden, and they need the support. So I'm not a BDS guy. I don't even really consider myself anti-Israel. I mean, I see Israel as an important American ally. I'm an American, and Israel is an important American ally. And I feel about the state of Israel the same way I feel about Japan or Australia or the UK or France. These are American allies. South Korea, and these are valuable American allies. There's something different about Israel, is that it's, I'd say, occupying my holy land, the holy land of my religion. But that's no different than the British who occupied it before that, and the Turks who occupied it before that, and the Malamukes and the Crusaders and Suleiman and all of these, and going back to the Romans and the Greeks and so forth. We're all all of these different groups occupied the Holy Land at different times, and so the Zionists are also occupiers because Judaism is a religion, not a race. The Holy Land was given to the ancient Israelites as part of a covenant, and if we break that covenant, we lose that land. Now, eventually, the idea is it will be restored, but this isn't the way that it's supposed to happen. There has to be a prophetic mandate. There has to be a Sanhedrin. There has to be a lot of things that we don't have, and that's that's America. I'm sorry. What did I say? That's America. I'm thinking the song from Frank Sinatra. What is America to me? I don't know why that's coming through my head, and then I'm saying one thing, thinking something else, and I'm just. Well, anyway. But when Messiah comes, a different story. But when the Messiah comes, also we have to understand that the Medrash says that Jerusalem will be as big as Eretz Israel is now, as the land of Israel is now, and the land of Israel will be as big as the whole world is now. Excuse me. So that means that the whole world will be Eretz Israel. I don't think it means that the whole world will get bigger. It means the whole world will be the Holy Land. And what is the whole issue of the Holy Land? What's the Holy Land about? You mentioned to me in your tweets that the Torah is filled with references to the Holy Land, and it's central to the Torah. Elchanan Wasserman, Hashem Yinkum Dama, writes that Eretz Israel is very important in Torah, but Torah is more important. Meaning that Eretz Israel is like food. You can live without food for a little while. It takes a few weeks to starve to death. But Torah is like air. Without air, if you can't breathe, you die in a few minutes. And so the Jewish people could live without the Holy Land for a while, but not without, but not without air. And Torah is our air. That's what Elchanan Wasserman writes in Ikus HaMashiach. But there's more to it. I mean, that's his opinion, and he brings his proofs for that. So what I'm saying, Eretz Israel without Torah is like food in a vacuum. There's no point of food with no air. But what does the Torah tell us about Eretz Israel? And I know you're going to say you don't want to hear what the Talmud says, what the Midrash says, what the Mishnah says. All right, let's see what the Chumash says. Let's see what the Bible says. The Bible says in Leviticus that you cannot pollute the land with immorality, and if you pollute the land, it'll vomit you out, just like it vomited out the Canaanites, because it's an edel land. It's a very delicate land. It cannot support iniquity. It cannot support immorality. If you want the immorality, the iniquity, you're not supposed to have it anywhere, but especially not in the king's palace, not in the Holy Land, certainly not. The kinds of debauchery that go on in Eretz Israel, the kinds of things that the Arab world, part of the reasons why they hate us so much is because of the immorality that's open in Israel and Tel Aviv and so forth. That doesn't exist in the Arab world, at least not openly. And yet it's open in Eretz Israel. They have parades. They celebrate debauchery and immorality openly in Israel, and that's part of the Zionist idea. And to do that in God's holy land, you want to go to nightclubs. There are enough nightclubs in New York or in Nevada or in California. Why do you have to go to the Holy Land to go to nightclubs? There are enough nightclubs in Europe. This is God's holy land. That's one aspect. The Chumash also says, the Bible also says, Az tirtzu shabseiseho. I'll quote the Mishnah. Mishnah Pirkei Avos tells us, Kalas Bala'ilam, Al Shrichas Damim, Vil Arayis, V'Vedizara, Al Hashmatas Haaretz. the three cardinal sins of murder, which is rampant in the Holy Land, idolatry, which is also, and adultery, all these things. Those three things bring Golus, and also the sabbatical year, the failure to keep the sabbatical year, and that is we find in Scripture. You find it also in Leviticus. It says that the part of the reason for the exile is to allow the land to rest because we're not observing the sabbatical year. And the great many people in the Holy Land don't observe the sabbatical year, the agriculture and so forth, whether they use the Heter Mechira or not. A lot of people don't even bother to use the Heter Mechira, and a lot of people, and even using the Heter Mechira, it's a big shaila. And so, if Rav Kook should have realized, it's a simple thing in Chumash. If you need to use the Heter Mechira, then you're already problematic. You're already not there. You're already, instead of using the Heter Mechira, it shows it's not time, and the land needs its rest, and you're disturbing the rest, which means we're going to be in Golus longer, because you're desecrating the land by working on the sabbatical year, in addition to all the other sins that are committed there that cause us to be put in exile. So we got to take these things seriously. As far as our devotion to the Holy Land. What does the Mishnah say about the Holy Land? Mishnah Kalim. It says very simply, Yisrael Kadosh Mikol Haratzos. Kedusha Mikol Haratzos. The land of Israel is holier than every other land. Umahi Kedushasa. What's the holiness of the Holy Land? Is that the Misham Nevi'im is Oimer V'Shtei Lechem upon him. That there's certain sacrifices, certain offerings that were offered in the temple in the ancient times when we had a temple, that could only be brought from produce that was from grains that grew in the Holy Land, which whereas grains that grew elsewhere could not be used for that purpose. And that's really all it is. Bikurim, Shtei Lechem, Omer. These things have to come from the Holy Land. And that's the halachic ramification of what the Holy Land means, is that these items come from the Holy Land. There's laws that apply to the Holy Land that don't apply to other lands. The same thing, we don't have to bring Meiser and Truma and Shemitah and Pei Shikha, all these halachas, all these laws that apply only to the Holy Land. And that's it. That's all. That's all it means. There's nothing else. It's not some kind of spooky thing. It's a simple legalistic issue. And we make it to this whole holy, spooky, spiritual mumbo-jumbo nonsense. That's not what it's all about. And that just comes out of ignorance. And just, empty emotional nonsense, fluff. It's not based in anything. So then you're criticizing my mode of Judaism. Now that's the thing. Most the liberal Jews expect me to accept the Reform and the Conservative as my brothers, the Reconstructionists, all these different groups. And more or less I do. You know, I to a certain extent, but on the other hand, you know, you mentioned to me, you compare me to PLO, that I find offensive, because I have nothing to do with the PLO. As far as I'm concerned, the PLO and the Zionists are two sides of the same coin. They're both just, you know, communist organizations. I mean, I saw in the 700 Club years ago how the whole Palestinian ideology and everything was really made up by the Soviets. And it's a Russian, Soviet, communist movement that they pushed for their own nefarious purposes. But and the PLO is extremely corrupt. Israel is not really, even though there's a lot of corruption in Israel, compared to other countries. Israel is a very moral country, and that's why I said at the beginning, I'm not anti-Israel, I'm pro-Israel, but I'm anti-Zionist. My own personal view is very similar to Carolyn Glick, actually. She said that Israel should annex all the land that they won in '67, which I agree, and have a one-state solution. But I believe we should give the Arabs a path to citizenship. And my personal view is that the American model of federalism would really be the answer to the problems in Israel. Meaning, if you make Israel into 5 states united under one central government that's non-sectarian, I won't say secular, I'll say the central government has the Jeffersonian value of religious freedom, and those individual states can have official religion and official approaches to religion. Meaning you could have one state that's, and you could have more than 5, I'm saying 5, that there would be 2 Arab states and 3 Jewish states. This would also maintain a certain Jewish majority in the electoral college type of approach. But that Gaza and the West Bank should be 2 different states. This solves the issue that they're not connected. And they have their own regional government, united under this central government. And that the current Israel should be divided, perhaps into a secular state and a modern, you know, national, you know, religious Zionist state, and a Haredi state, perhaps in their majorities or whatever, but still that the central government constitution would protect the rights of the minorities of those states. And that would be the importance of having a constitutional central government with this model. And so too, Jews would be allowed to live in Gaza and the West Bank, just like Arabs are allowed to live in modern Israel. That's one of the biggest problems I have. But Israel is the one who pushed the Jews out of Gaza. It wasn't the Arabs. It was the Israelis who took the Jews out of Gaza. Why? Because to them Zionism was more important than Jews living in Eretz Yisrael, than the religious devotion that these Jews had to their Holy Land. Even if I disagree with that approach to their religious devotion, I respect it. And they would have lived under the Arab rule, and the Arabs would have let them. But the Israelis wouldn't let them because it would embarrass them too much to show that Jews could live under Arab rule and not get killed. Because the whole ideology of the Zionists is, like we said, to fetishize anti-Semitism. It needs anti-Semitism to exist. But the truth is, I'm the head chaplain in a prison. I'm a supervisor for Catholics, Protestants. We have an Orthodox priest. We have a Muslim imam. We have a Native American chief. We have volunteers who come who are Buddhists and Jehovah's Witnesses and Wiccans. And I am the supervisor for all of these. And as a supervisor, I work with him, and then I have a supervisor above me, and then another supervisor above him, and then there's the superintendent, the warden. We don't call him warden, we call him superintendent. So the supervisor above me, he seems like a regular American guy to me, but he looks Jewish, right? And he was actually born in Israel, born in Haifa on the kibbutz. Doesn't sound like an Israeli guy. Sounds like a regular American guy to me. And I'll be honest. I'm not ashamed to say this. But as an Orthodox Jew, I feel I have much more in common with, yes, the Orthodox Christian priest, and the Catholic and the Protestant and the Muslim, and even some of these other religions, the Native American and the Buddhist and the Jehovah's Witness and the Wiccan. These are all men of God. And I feel like I have more in common with them than I do with my supervisor, who right in front of me was eating chametz pretzels, Chol Moed Pesach, and told me that as far as he's concerned, that someone who converts to Judaism, that he thinks that's nonsense. He said that's like him saying that he's black. And I respectfully disagree. And I told him, he said this in front of, I didn't say anything about the chametz on Pesach. But I said, I try to be careful during Ramadan not to eat in front of the imam. I had like an ice pop or something. I was like hiding it. I don't want to insult the imam during Ramadan by eating in front of him, even though he won't be insulted, but I want to be sensitive. And I wished my Orthodox priest a happy Pascha. He said I wished him a happy Pascha before his bishop wished it to him. And he said, why? He said, because the rabbi understands what Pascha is all about. That's what he told our interns, who are my students as well. And I talked to these boys, the interns. I feel like they're Koilin Galite, I feel certainly a lot in common with them. The same thing, Imam. I feel a brotherhood more, to be honest, with the religious people of other religions than with a secular person who was born into my religion. And that's why I'm very supportive of conversion to Judaism. I want to make it easier because I think Gentiles are going to be better Jews than a lot of these Jews. And that's why I want to make conversion to Judaism a lot easier. And I'm very offended by what, with all due respect, my supervisor said, that he doesn't believe it's possible to convert to Judaism. But I think that's an Israeli mentality. I think there was actually an Israeli party that had that platform to say that converts could not have the right to return. And I really don't give a damn if they give them the right to return or not, because I don't think it's, I feel very uncomfortable when someone comes to convert and they say they want to move to Israel. It's one thing if, they're marrying an Israeli guy, that I can, there was one case like that where, this woman, she was marrying an Israeli guy. I understand that. He wants to be with his family. But Stam, this whole thing, I had someone who I converted in Ecuador, and the Rabbanut, the Zionists, they said, it's not good enough, Rabbi Kolakowski conversion. You have to come to Israel, do the conversion again. So she went and she got killed in a terror attack. I think her blood is on the hands of the Rabbanut, as far as I'm concerned. in the hands of the Zionists. Because why do you have to schlep her to Israel into a war zone? What purpose does that serve? Shalom should help us. Ein ben David Boad shetichel malchus etzulas Yisrael. The Talmud tells us, and this is based on verses in Isaiah, the Messiah won't come until there's no more Jewish government. Let's hope it happens in a peaceful way, and with no wars, with no terrorism. It's enough of all the bloodshed, all these Jews dying. There's no need for it. It's a disaster. It's not a disaster for the Arabs. The Arabs in Israel live better than Arabs anywhere else in the Middle East. This isn't about the Arabs to me. I really, Meir Kahane used to say, I wish the Arabs well elsewhere. The ones that are living there in Israel, they're living really well. Better than any other Arab in the Middle East. That's not the issue. That's not what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the Jews. I'm tired of seeing Jews die. And I don't blame the Arabs. God will send somebody else. Asher Shevet Api. It says in Isaiah, Assyria is the rod of my indignation. You think it's about the Arabs? It's about God. Read Leviticus. Read Deuteronomy. See what happens when the Jews sin. This is our punishment. And I don't like to see it. You should see they're Tanaka Shanishbo. They don't know any better. Like the Christians have in their Bible, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. And it's sad that now, we have a few generations down. These kids, they don't know what Yiddishkeit's all about. But then they go and lecture us what Yiddishkeit's about. Are you serious? Please like, share, and subscribe.